Hey, what's going on, guys? Geek Hustlers coming back at you with another video, and now today we're reviewing another McFarlane item, and this time it is on the Vegeta 2.0 Bakugou Katsuki, everybody's favorite overrated edgelord rival. I'm just playing, man. Alright, to give a quick history lesson how I feel about this character, man, I kind of have a love-hate relationship with Bakugou. Of course, if anybody remembered, that was my first video on the channel. I did review a Bakugou statue figurine by Ben Presto, and that was a pretty cool figure. I still like it. Really enjoyed the details on that one, and of course, I had to get another Bakugou, and this time I noticed that McFarlane had did one not too long ago, and to be honest, that's the only decent figure in their Boku no Hero wave. I think all their figures look like complete garbage, man. All Might's head is way too tiny. My boy Tomoe looks like complete trash. He's way too skinny. The sculpt, the QC control, and the hair are absolutely horrible. I just can't get those figures, especially the Izuku. That almost looks nothing like Izuku. Just giving my opinion. No, it's nothing personal on McFarlane, man, but they really have not done that great of a job on these My Hero figures, man. So the only two decent ones, one of which hasn't come out, Bakugou, of course. I bought him for $22.99, pretty decent deal. To be honest, this figure is worth really 18 or 16, not 22 in my opinion, but yeah. They also have an Ida coming out. My man Ida from Wave 3, I believe? Wave 2. And that one right there has Yuarika, Kirishima, Todoroki, all of which look terrible. I'm not interested in getting any of those. Figma's, theirs look great. McFarlane, what are you doing? Ida looks good though, I will give you all that. Ida looks good. So going into Bakugou, yeah, might as well go right off the bat and say what kind of accessories he has, with an S. And the stands, he has the stand that it helps, it's useful, and he has two interchangeable hands that don't really point up your fingers, of course, as much because these explosion effects are really sharp. Now they look cool, but handling them, oh my God, and this is kind of what I said about the armored Batman. Handling, and I think McFarlane kind of has this problem with some of their figures in general, man. Just handling some of their accessories is it's a really agonizing process, man. So yeah, I'll say that right there. They look cool, but handling the explosion accessories feels really weird, feels really uncomfortable, and yeah, they're pretty pointy. Understandably so, but yeah, just handling them, it's gonna be pretty uncomfortable. But you can get him into some pretty decent poses if you really try hard enough, but for sake of my fingers not getting pointed up the entire time, I'm switching the hands out. He comes with these regular, oh my God, dropped one. Pay attention. These regular clutched hands right here where he ain't got no explosion effects. And there we go. It takes a little effort, not too much. All you gotta do is just put a little force onto that ball peg. Hold on, am I putting it in right? Ah, yeah. Dude, I cannot be putting it in right. Hold on. There we go. There we go. Got it. So yeah, like I said before, it takes a little force, man. But to be honest, once you actually get them in, okay, it all comes together. And you know, Bakugou, and they kind of should have done the explosion effects, kind of like how Figma had theirs. Like they were like these little small, like explosion balls. They could have did it like that and had the hands look like this. But I see what they were trying to do. I think they were trying to have a little bit of a flight effect with their particular Bakugou. So whatever, is what it is. We're gonna get started on the sculpt before we get to articulation. I already covered the accessories. He comes with that stand, which, like I said, it's pretty useful. And when it comes to opposing him with those hands right there. So, yeah, might as well get into the sculpt. And right off the bat, I'm going to say the QC control is not that great for this figure, man. There are a lot of paint errors on mine, if you can't already tell. There's a paint error on the shoulder. Definitely some seam line right there. Some black overspray right there on the orange lining detail around his costume, man. Definitely a little bit of paint errors right there on the X, and not all the paint errors really bother me that much for this particular figure, but man, there are some paint errors, dude. There's one paint error in particular that really bugged me, man. I'm trying to figure out where it is. Hold I think it was on one of the small details. Here it is. Right here. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, you should be able to see that. There's some black paint missing right here on the button part of the green strap going across his thigh. And there's black paint right there. That honestly drives me a little crazy right there. It may seem petty to somebody else, but man, I'm a detail guy, man. I like my aesthetics. There's also a little bit of a green overspray of paint. Hold on, man. Green overspray of paint on the top of one of his grenades right here. You should be able to see that if it focuses. There we go. And there's no green overspray paint right here. It is very, very sloppy, man, especially when it comes to how the hair was sculpted nicely, but how it was painted, kind of rough. I'm not expecting perfection, especially from McFarlane at this point, but yeah, they could have did better when it comes to the QC. So QC, not that good, but not terrible either, because the paint job could have been a lot worse. So yeah, man, the sculpt, when it comes to the lightness, it looks like Bakugou. You can obviously see they did a decent job with the grin. His eyes do look right. This does look like Bakugou if you've read the manga or if you've watched the anime. Me, personally, I'm completely caught up with the anime. Haven't seen the new movie yet, which is Heroes Rising. No, I believe Heroes Rising was part 1. I think part 2 is 2 Heroes? I don't know. Forgot. Doesn't matter. So, yeah, man, sculpt is pretty decent. I just wish his muscles were a lot more bigger. Not too big. I don't want them to be, like, overly jacked because he is a 15-year-old kid, but still, man. They could have put a little bit more muscle on his arms, and his shoulders really could have looked a lot better. In the anime, Bakugou's muscles are complete jacked. This kid is ripped, so his arms kind of look kind of skinny, man. Like, I don't really too much like that. It's not bad, but it's not that great either. Also, they did a decent job sculpting the neck. You can see the, his Adam's apple right there, if you want to call it that. Also, they did a good job sculpting his back muscles, as you may have seen earlier. Belt is sculpted well. He's got the 4 grenades like he should. That looks good. The gauntlets, they also did a pretty good job sculpting the gauntlets right here. Not bad. I was surprised that the QC wasn't completely awful on them either. There's, a couple scuffs right there, but not that big of a deal. Yeah, they did a good job on those right there. And that was always the one thing that kind of attracted me to Bakugou's costume, was these 2 things right here, these gauntlet grenade things. Cool, really like that. Knee pads look well sculpted, not really any QC control issues here. These do look good. They look pointed as they should, like in the anime and the manga. The paint on the boots is actually surprisingly well done, man. It's not terrible. I was expecting a lot of like details to be like badly painted right over here. No, they actually did a pretty good job sculpting the boots. So, yeah, man, even though the QC control is not that great on this figure, they did do a pretty solid job getting all the details right on Bakugou, man. I've drawn this dude before for like hours and hours, so I pretty much know all the details that he should have. So, yeah, man, sculpt, I would give the sculpt like a 7.5 out of 10, mainly due to the fact that the QC control is not that great, as well as the arms being a bit skinny and the shoulders not being the accurate size for the character. Face, pretty decent. Not perfect, but not bad either. The sculpt on the hair is good. It definitely looks accurate, but it's just the paint. Oh, man, dude. And, of course, forgot to talk about these details on the masks. The mask details right here on the back of his head do look good. Those are fine. They kind of bend a little bit, but they don't look bad. So, yeah, man. The sculpt, I would give like a 7.5 out of 10. Oh, yeah, and the hands are also sculpted well, too. I don't really have any issues with the hands. There are a few paint errors on them, but whatever. What are you going to do, man? It's McFarlane. So, yeah, man, I'll give the sculpt overall a 7.5 out of 10. 7.5 out of 10 when it comes to the sculpt. So that's all I got to say about the sculpt. Next up is the articulation, which is, oh man, that's a very, very iffy subject, man. You got a bicep swivel right here, which is really, 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 really tight and stiff and awkward, man. Next up, you got a really awkward shoulder joint that it does work for the most part, but it feels so stiff and limited, and it definitely feels like you're gonna break it. Like for a Bakugou figure, man, you need all the free range articulation that you can get. So I'm not really that impressed with the shoulder articulation. It feels kind of limited, and it definitely feels stiff. I don't know if that's just mine. I don't know if they're all made like that, but whatever, man. Elbow articulation is decent. Kind of reminds me of a Jazzwares figure. Does exactly what it needs to do. Wrist articulation is like almost non-existent with these gauntlets in the way. I mean, you can still move his wrist on this ball peg right here, but you know, man, still kind of limited because of the grenade gauntlets. Next up, waist articulation is actually pretty good, man, and also you can it has really nice ab crunch too, surprisingly. The belt kind of gets in the way a little bit. There's gonna be some clipping, but other than that, it's actually pretty good. And the torso articulation does do exactly what it needs to do. Hold on, if I can get this arm out of the way. Torso articulation is also good. Oh man, that is tight, but yeah, it does exactly what it needs to do. Articulation is the same on this other side, although my elbow joint is a tad bit loose due to the fact that I've been posing him around with those hands right over there. So yeah, man, it is what it is. You can still do what you need to do when it comes to the posing of this figure, but you're going to be kind of limited by the very stiff and awkward arm articulation, man. It's not that great, especially up here for the shoulders. It's pretty limited, man. Head articulation is actually pretty decent. It can face downward and face a little bit upward. Of course, it's kind of limited by the accessory of the costume right here. It's kind of limited. It's not bad, but you know, it's decent. Does a job. Goes all the way around like that. Okay, there we go. Oh no. Oh, okay. It goes back on. It pops back on. I was about to say, man, it felt like it was on a ball peg, but yeah, I thought I broke the figure at first. Just kind of paranoid about that. All right, it does snap back on, as you just saw right there. Next up is the leg articulation, which is weird, but also strangely good at the same time. Thighs go right here. Thigh articulation is decent, kind of limited and hindered a little bit by the accessories, but, you know, like I said, gets the job done. Double jointed knee right here. Wow, pretty impressive. Toe hinge at the boot. Looks kind of awkward, but hey, man, it gets the job done, man. You can kind of get it like this if it bothers you that much. But that's as far as it goes. Ankle pivot is almost non-existent. In fact, there is no ankle pivot, man. So, yeah. But the ankle can go inward and outward like this. So, yeah, you got that right there. You can definitely do some decent things when it comes to taking pictures and posing this Bakugou. This is kind of like a budget version of the Figma Bakugou that Figma had released not too long ago. So yeah, man, double jointed knee articulation for this leg as well. They are not loose. They are really, really tight. And yeah, man, that's pretty good. That's not limited. That actually feels pretty solid. So yeah, man, pretty solid articulation. It doesn't feel limited around the waist, the torso, head, decent. Legs, you know, his boots, pretty solid. It does exactly what it needs to do. Arm articulation is not that great. It's not that great. I would say it's not that great. It could be better. It feels really limited and stiff and awkward, especially when it comes to the shoulders. So I'm gonna give the articulation I would give it like an 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10. I would say 8 out of 10. Definitely an 8. Could be better, but you know, it could have been worse. So yeah, man, would I recommend this Bakugou figure from McFarlane if you don't have the funds to buy the Figma Bakugou at the moment? Absolutely. I actually would recommend this over the Izuku, the Krillin looking Izuku that they released. Oh god, they should be ashamed of that thing with the bowl haircut, man. Nah, the body looks alright, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it, so I just bought Bakugou by himself, the All Might. I think I've already said what I needed to say about those figures. So anyway, would I recommend the Bakugou? Yeah, I would. I just wouldn't, pay like $26 for it. I would definitely wait until it goes on sale or something on a Big Bad Toy Store or a GameStop. So that's all I got for y'all today, man. Post comments down below if you choose to. Subscribe for more. Hit the notification bell if you choose to as well. Geek Hustle is out, and see you next time.